So user-centered design is design that puts the needs of the user at the heart of the process. So what other things could you use to drive your design process? Now, saving money is one of the key things that is driving user-centered design, because within the design process, you're looking at, okay, how can we design this process so that we save money for the organization? For those that have done business analysis, it's also part of a BA's role to sort of look at, okay, how can we simplify things? How can we make things less expensive to run? So if you go back, way back when, HMRC used to have, I think they used to have like offices in each town, and in some towns, bigger towns, they had more than one office. So, they had all these different offices for people to be able to ask HMRC questions. I remember once, ages ago, I had to actually go into the office. And when I went into the office, they also had like like booths where you could, then they'll give you a number, and then you then call that number, which would be a direct number to the people that can answer the query that you had. It was like a really weird process. And if you think about it, some of these processes, they still exist in some places. I was laughing at the one at the council, I think it was the council in Manchester. You sort of arrive and then you pick a ticket, and then that ticket, you then go to desk number 1, and then you get asked some questions, and then you move, and then you talk to somebody else, repeat exactly the same thing. So think about the amount of time being wasted, not just for the user alone, but think about the amount of people you're having to repeat the same information to. So the government, the way that the processes were, wasn't saving money. So user research can help in saving money. Rather than building websites that nobody can actually use, like the old government websites, I don't know whether anyone has seen them. They have a lot of information. I've seen the old HMRC one that has got like a white and a green background. It's got loads of information on it. And some of it is kind of like, policy jargon in it. And people can't actually access it. And people will still call anyway because they can't really understand. So really, user-centered design can help an organization save money by building something that people can access or self-save. They can do it for themselves so that they don't need to be calling. User-centered design can be used for making money. The example that we spoke about where, you change the location of the shopping basket, and that makes more people click the shopping basket and buy things. So user research can, the design process can be driven by quite a lot of things. And user research is one of those things that also drives the design process. Some could be ego. I just want my website to look better than everybody else. So, because I like to be the best, some organizations, they want to be the leading in different things. So out of their ego, they design things based on, they want to be the biggest, they want to be the best. My battery is low, but I'll try to sort of like continue and then try to get my charger in the meantime. Okay, so why user-centered design? So for government services, where there's no alternative to choose from, they are legally obligated to use the service. That's why they have to do user-centered design, because they are legally obligated to do it. Now, some of the people that are still in these organizations, like I say, they've been there for 20, 30 years. They haven't had to do user research in those 20, 30 years. And in their minds, they're like, why do we need to do it? But there is a reason, because they are obligated to do it. So that's why they would employ somebody and still be asking what you're doing, because they are obligated to do it. Because of this government service, they have an obligation to make those services work for people who have to use them. So that's kind of like a really valid reason for why you are there. Is that, well, we have to test whatever we're creating with users because, the service is obligated to build things that people can use. So there's a strong business case for user-centered design. User-centered services are more efficient and they are more effective. More efficient, they're going to have a higher customer satisfaction rate because you've built something that people want to use. They are more effective because people are actually using them. Because you could build something and no one uses it, then it's not effective. So 20% of the UK GDP is spent on public services. So that's why there's quite a lot of roles within the public sector, because quite a lot of money is being spent on that. 60% of the cost of those services is spent on calls and casework. So if they could build something that people don't need to call, because 60% of the money is going there, then if we build a service that people understand, people can use, they don't need to call, they don't need to chase any cases and stuff like that. Everything, expectations are clear on the website. People know what to do. People can check, like that's something that we're trying to do for COVID. If we had made it easy for people that want to find their results, if you could log in somewhere and sort of say, okay, you had your test taken on Monday, your results are likely to be back on Friday. Someone will not need to call to ask that. They can just log in and check, that's the status of my test. The results are not in yet. Then they don't need to call. So you're actually saving a lot of money because 60% of the cost, of the money spent on public services is going to all these call centers. So that's why there was kind of like a bit of mishmash on that, because the project I was on, we're trying to say what's the solution, whereas like this, the civil servants are used to having call centers. So they was not seeing a reason why they shouldn't continue having call centers although people were waiting 2 hours, 1.5 hours to find out some simple information about COVID. We could have saved a lot of money by making everything digital, but because most people in civil service are used to the call centers, it was a real struggle to try to kind of change that and actually sell a business case to say, this doesn't make sense, guys. Let's shift to this. Let's shift to using a digital solution because that will save money and people will be much more happy. I'm pretty much sure by the time you've waited 1.5 hours on to get an answer, you are already agitated by the time you're talking to someone. You are already upset. And, so really, if we can find something that can reduce the amount of time, you have you have people that are happy, people that are actually getting the solutions that they need without having to stress, which will be good for everybody. But it's all those embedded things that this is how we've always done. That's what you'll be up against as a user researcher.